Record. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Today, I'm with Brian from AmaWaterways, and we are going to talk about the amazing Douro River in Portugal. I will say, as a side note, that the Poodle Booked It is going to be hosting a group trip to Portugal in May of 2026. And I am so excited. We are going to be doing like a 6-day pre-cruise where we're going to start in the Algarves and we're going to go to Lisbon, and then we are going to hop on the amazing AmaWaterways to do the Douro River. So I thought I would bring an expert to kind of talk about the amazingness that is AmaWaterways on the Douro River and really just what the experience looks like. So welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Sydney. Thank you so much. And yeah, in terms of May of 26, first of all, May is one of the most popular months to do the Douro. It's a great time for weather, and that's Portugal typically always has nice weather, frankly. But May is a great time to go. And Portugal, for us at AmaWaterways, it right now it is one of the hottest destinations just in general. Portugal is.
Yeah.
And for us, of course, we do the Douro River, right? And so we're finding it so popular that next year in 2025, we are adding our third ship, right? So we have Amaduro, Amavita, and then our third vessel will be what's called Amasintra. And I should also mention that whereas our other European ships average about 140 guests, thereabouts, the ships in Portugal are quite a bit smaller. They only have about 100 guests each, right? So just as a forewarned is forearmed, when Sydney starts to promote the departure in May of 2026, because Portugal is so popular, you might think 2026, I got plenty of, but with only 100 guests on board, you want to react promptly, right? So the message, particularly for peak times and popular times like May, just give you the heads up that you would want to book early. And I know I sound like you got to book it, but in the case of Portugal, it is just a fact that you have to do that. So, and I will say too, that having been in the river cruise business now for 10 years, myself as a sales guy, 7.5 here at AMA, when I ask river cruise managers, they're like cruise directors on the ocean going ships, and they're called cruise managers on the river vessels. I'll ask, what's your favorite river in Europe? Because I'm asking, because number one, I'm curious, but also I am wondering, since they essentially live on the rivers of Europe, these cruise managers that traverse all the different rivers. And invariably, this river behind me is always one they mention, the Douro and the Douro River Valley, which, by the way, is also a UNESCO World Heritage Area. And so Portugal is having its moment in the sun, if you will. And you mentioned going down to the Algarve region. That actually is, we don't have a program that goes to the Algarve. We do Lisbon for our pre-cruise stay. So it's cool if you're going to the Algarve. That actually is for retirees from around the world, right? That is an absolute mecca that people love to go and have second homes, that kind of thing, snowbirds, etc. So the Algarve is supposed to be really, really wonderful. So yeah, Portugal for us is absolutely one of our top most desired destinations.
Yeah, I mean, it looks absolutely gorgeous, which is why I'm interested in it. And I will tell you, my favorite wine is actually port. I like the sweet wines, so I do fall into that category. But just Portugal in general is just absolutely breathtaking. And it's a little different, as you said, right? There's only 100 people on board. It's a smaller ship. It has, as you see in your background, just the beautiful background and the, I guess, cascading hills and wine regions.
Yep.
Is, I guess, the descriptive word. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the fancy word, topography. Yeah, I like to say it. It sounds like I know what I'm talking about. But no, but I mean, yeah, the steep, narrow wine growing areas that you see there, and pretty much everywhere in Europe except Belgium and the Netherlands is wine country, right? But the Portuguese, hey, they make some fabulous wine as well, and particularly like you mentioned, port. And one of the certainly key fun things, attributes, if you will, of doing this particular program is immersing yourself in the cuisine and the food, as well as the different kinds of wine and port wine that is produced in Portugal. That's a real highlight.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I was looking over the itinerary, and you guys have some fun like activities that you guys are doing every day? Like, what are
Yeah.
some like unique things that you guys are doing on the Douro that's unique to the Douro, but also just like the overall AMA experience?
I think one of the days you're in a place called Pinhao, Pinha with the little umlaut or whatever that is called over the ends
I
there.
would butcher it
There,
too.
you get, yeah, you have an exclusive lunch. It's what's called Quinta de Abasada. And this is a traditional dining experience. There's fado music being played as well, different types of wine that you'll experience there too. So, you think about going on a river cruise that you're going to be eating mostly on the ship, which is true. But in that particular day, in the what's called the Alto Douro region, you're going to have a really wonderful off-ship experience at, again, Quinta de Avasada.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. Yeah, because one of the thing about the Portuguese culture is just really being like connected with everyone and enjoying meals together. Like that's really just what they're about. And so being able to
Yes.
experience that and the unique Portuguese music would just, really just set off the culture immersion, which is what river cruising is about.
It is. It definitely is. And one thing I'll also mention about, and of course, pictured here during daylight, Portugal is kind of interesting in that the Portuguese law, and so all river cruise companies, we actually cruise during the day, right? So we don't. Whereas on the Rhine and Danube, and maybe other rivers in Europe, we're mostly cruising pretty much at night. But on this river, yeah, it's daytime cruising, so that presents a whole other unique aspect. And so some of the places that you're traversing, you're going to get great experience because you're doing it during the day. Speaking of culinary as well, they're well known. So when you're on your land program, they just supposedly have over 100 different recipes for cod. If you like cod, they're into, and I happen to like cod a lot. So they're into the different types of recipes and preparation of codfish, right? So
All
that's,
right.
yeah.
I
But
was
the
thinking of
other
all
thing,
the tarts and all the little like treats to
yes,
try there as
the
well.
pa- patis de nata,
Yeah.
yeah, those are addicting. I'll say one. If you can eat just one, the fence good for you because they're you want to at least a couple. So they're a special pastry that are made. They're emanated from Portugal that everybody loves. But of course, they're best experienced in Portugal. I think that's where they do the best job of making patis de nata, right?
Yeah.
So that's an experience for sure. And then also on the cruise itself, in addition to I mentioned Quinta de Avasada, you have other opportunities for culinary experiences. So, for example, in Regua, one of the places you're going to go and be able to experience what's called bolas de lamego, which is a bread-filled meal with smoked ham and presunto, and that is also fabulous. So, and that's the fun thing about river cruising, certainly, is again this notion of cultural immersion. So whether it's the fado music and the entertainment on board, also this itinerary you have a chance to visit when you're far east on the Douro River. We take you into Salamanca, Spain. So you're not only in
Okay.
Portugal, but you have an optional excursion to take you to Salamanca, which everybody does. And there's the experience of flamenco music in Salamanca and
Mhm.
dancing and a lunch there as well. So that's kind of nice. So that's a bonus that you're getting a little bit of Spain included on the itinerary. So yes, this notion of cultural immersion across the board is absolutely fantastic.
That sounds amazing. Because I know, like, as you were talking about sailing during the day, it's one of those things where it's like you get to experience the culture of it, but also just being able to it's a very more, like, relaxed itinerary. You get to see the beautiful landscape and really just feel as, like, you're part of that nature is kinda how
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, this river also has, I think it has 5 different locks. So you're going to get a lock experience on the Douro River as well. So that's also quite unique if you've not, say, done a river cruise. Typically, first time river cruisers, gravitate to the Rhine or the Danube. But I will say this because Portugal is so unique and so much a hot destination right now, this would also be a good choice for a first river cruise, right? And particularly when, as I mentioned, the cruise managers always across the board, when I ask their favorite river, this is always in the at least the top two, no doubt about it. So it would be a good first choice to come along with Sydney in May of 2026.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I will say, just as because I like to be like transparent and honest,
Yeah.
Douro is different than any other river cruise if you've been on one, because you aren't going to have as many of the like, because when you do the Danube, you have Vienna, you have these really like culturally amazing cities that have that like huge historical factor. Portugal is something where it's absolutely beautiful and you're going to see amazing castles and things of that nature, but it's not going to have the same historical significance like internationally.
Right. I
Um,
mean, correct. So I mean, there is commerce that is it takes place
yeah.
on the Douro, but really the Rhine and the Danube, they're like roads. I mean, they are busy rivers with commercial traffic, with tourist ships like ours, and yes, big capital cities, like you mentioned, Budapest, Vienna, Bratislava, or on the Rhine, Amsterdam, Basel. I mean, so this is more of a rural experience, but Lisbon's a world-class city you're going to be
Oh,
visiting, no
yeah.
question about it. But coming to be again on the Douro, and part of its allure is again the quaintness of the experience in terms of these smaller villages and towns that you're going to visit. And so, as you can see from the topography, there's not until you get to the place, and it's usually by motor coach that we take you there. There's not the biking and there are opportunities for hikes. I mean, we definitely offer hiking opportunities. And by the way, there's also a big pool on board, so bring your swimming trunks as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about the ship in terms of the accoutrements here in a moment. But yes, it's part of the allure is what Sydney's mentioning is more the rural kind of quaint feeling of these particular places you're visiting.
Yeah, a little bit more of like untouched and still, not as 21st century, I guess. You really just get to go back in time and just, unwind. And so I think that is just it's allure as well. And it's just, it's beautiful in that sense. But yeah, as you were talking about, let's talk about the ship, like how great that is.
Yeah, so the Amaduro is one of the three ships, the one that you'll be on, and the key thing there, as I say, is smaller, so about 100 guests, right? And so I already mentioned the fact that there is a pool on board. That's kind of nice. So bring your trunks. There is a fitness facility as well, so that's cool. And then, of course, gift shop, bar, main restaurant, etc. The typical accommodations are what are called category A and category B, and these are outside accommodations that include a balcony experience. And having a balcony, particularly certainly in the month of May, would be certainly worth vetting, worth considering, just because the weather is quite beautiful that time of year. And to have your own private balcony off of your accommodation is an added element that's worth considering. And those are 215 square feet. The suites, we have 4 suites, and those are at 323 square feet, right? Only 4 of those. And then we go down in terms of square footage. It then drops down to a French balcony accommodation. A French balcony is just a sliding glass door with a rail, right? So it's not a step out balcony as the Cat A and Cat B are. And those are 161 square feet. And then on the lowest deck of the vessel, the panoramic windows, just a window, which is fine too. No problem there. Cat D or E, those are also 161 square feet. So if you want a little more room, you'll book in the higher categories such as the Cat A or Cat B, or for that matter, the suite. And so there's a cocktail party every evening. That's kind of nice. We do mimosas in the morning. We do beer and wine, certainly at lunch. And then the wines of the region we pour at dinner during the evening. And if you have a particular favorite, so maybe the port wine we poured last night you like more than tonight, you can always just ask, I'd prefer what we poured last night. So that we're real flexible that way. But we do change up the wines every evening. There's no quote unquote house wine that we're pouring every night. Every night is something different as it relates to the wine experience on board, which is nice too, because again, that's part of that cultural immersion where you get to experience the local products.
Yeah, I will say that I will probably have to upgrade to the balcony room since you're going to be having so many, times that you're sailing during the day, which I think is one of those things where it's when you're on a river cruise like like the Danube or the Rhine, you're always like, oh, I wish I had more sailing days because I enjoy being in the cities every day, but it's so just peaceful to do the day sailings. And so
Right.
I feel like it'd be a perfect opportunity to get that balcony since you're going to be having more early morning and like late afternoon sailings after you've experienced the cities that you've done that day.
Correct. Yeah, I agree with that. And we are known for having our ships that have a lot of options for balconies. And again, mainly that's because the consumer, the folks who are out there, your clients and folks watching this, like that experience. So we're trying to meet the demand of folks that want to have their own private balcony. And certainly just again looking at the picture and the topography and how beautiful it is, it's nice to be able to be sort of out in the elements and enjoying it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, what would you think is one of the like like important things about the Douro to mention to clients? Like, everyone who's gone on it so far, like, what are they saying is those high level things that make them want to go back?
I think, and again, this is sort of subjective, but I will say the warmth of the Portuguese people. And so the crew on board are mostly Portuguese, right? On our ships in Portugal. So mostly Portuguese folks. So they're already sort of happy that you're visiting their home country. And so they are incredibly warm. People love the staff. And then the experience off the ship with the local Portuguese folks in these various places that you're visiting, again, they are also that same vibe, if you will, just warm and welcoming. And so I think, when you travel the world and you go and have these experiences, and you might be going to castles, or you're going wherever it might be, like in Porto, the São Bento railway station with the beautiful tiles, right? So, I mean, those kind of memories stick with you, but ultimately, a lot of the memories that you bring home with you are of the people, right? The people that you met, both again the ship staff, but also the local Portuguese people. So I hear that time and time again, just how, and I, in some places, certain places you don't hear as much as you do about the Portuguese, how truly warm and welcoming they are. So I would say that, even though that's relatively subjective.
No, well, so where I'm from in Hanford, there is a huge Portuguese population, and I will tell you, they just open their arms, wide and are just so welcome and loving. And so I'm assuming the whole country is that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing this will be posted at some point on Facebook. Believe it or not, there's a Facebook group that I belong to called Californians Moving to Portugal.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And it's a large Facebook group, and I, that's probably a pipe dream in my case, but it's fun to go and see people from California that are leaving California to go move to Portugal for, and the reasons that they keep mentioning are how wonderful the people are, and of course the climate is very sort of California-esque.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and the beach and the food, and so the Portugal again. Unfortunately, I'm sure it's going to jack pricing. The Californians, they always wreck things when they move here. Anyway, but it is still kind of fun to belong to that group and see how much people really love Portugal. And of course, doing the Douro River, which I may have mentioned this already, so forgive me if I have. But again, that it's a UNESCO World Heritage Area, right? So
Yeah.
the United Nations has recognized this Douro River Valley as quite spectacular indeed.
Yeah, no, I know. It's like the entire region. So as you're sailing, you're like, I am in a UNESCO World Heritage. I'm eating, sleeping, breathing in one.
Yeah, indeed,
As I
indeed.
say, one of the places that I was looking forward to is the Mateus Passo,
Yeah,
Palace in Ragua, which I'm assuming I'm also butchering as well. It looked absolutely gorgeous. Besides
yeah. I
that,
mean,
yeah.
it is fantastic. And of course, I'm old enough to where Mateus wine. I remember the TV ads for the Mateus wine in the special bottle.
Is there? Oh my God, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, you can probably find on YouTube some Google some Mateus wine ads from Portugal. And so yes, you do visit that castle, which is the best, I think, the most wonderful restored castle, along with the Sintra Palace, which you'll see when you're on your Lisbon program,
Yeah.
which was the kind of the summer home, more in the hills outside of Lisbon for the royal family, Sintra Palace, but also the Mateus Palace as well. Which, speaking of which, Northern California here, Lisbon is often from a just again use that word topography standpoint, but it has lots of hills and cable cars and colors. Has a bridge that looks like complete knockoff of the Golden Gate Bridge. So people sometimes, at least from again a feel of a place, often will compare Lisbon to that. It sort of feels like San Francisco with the hills and the bridge and the trolley cars, etc. So that's another thing we should potentially mention as well.
I do. I love all the colors of Lisbon.
Yeah.
I just love how they're like, we love color. Let's double down. That is 100% my personality as well. And when I'm looking up all the photos of it, especially like in Porto, all the tile work and how they're just so
Yes.
famous for it. And like they have their churches that have all like this, the entire artwork in tile. Like I can't imagine.
Yeah, the tile work is fantastic. And of course, the Portuguese have a history of exploration, right? So many, world explorers, sailors who not coming to mind any names at the
Yeah.
Vasco da Gama, maybe, but I mean, the Portuguese definitely had their moment of exploration. So there's that history as well, right? So there's, I mean, when you think, well, Brazil feels they speak Portuguese there, right?
Yeah.
Heavy influence in the Philippines. So they got around the world. They were definitely explorers.
Japan as well. I was doing my research, and there are actually a lot of words in Japanese that are from the Portuguese language, like
Yeah.
bread or things that nature. Like you will see it in the word in Portuguese is actually the same word in Japan.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah. Fun fact for the day.
That's right. Another place you're going to visit is called Nossa Senhora de Remedios, the Sanctuary of Our Lady of Remedies. And here, if you're so inclined, there's a staircase with 700 steps. And so you can, yes, not everybody, you don't have to do the 700 steps, but some people think, you know what, I'm going to get ready and I'm going to walk up those 700 steps. And again, it has the incredible, beautiful blue and white tiles there as well.
As I say, I think there's hopefully a shuttle for those that are not.
Yes, I would be one of those as well. I'd say, good luck. See you at the top. See you
I
at the
don't.
top.
I feel like I would be like I would see some, lady in her 80s from like Tiburon who like tackles it, and I would be like, I'm 32 and I have to do it as well.
And you have to put halfway, yeah. Turn around and go back down.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say I'd get there, I get halfway in my
Yeah.
my cast and be like, girl.
That's a lot of steps, 700 steps. But nonetheless, people, and then once you get to the top, the view is quite beautiful from up high there. So
Yeah. No, it just sounds absolutely breathtaking. And is there any other sort of like things that are happening on the ship? Don't you guys bring on like a fado music sort of
we
thing
do.
like
We do have
that?
the fado music. It's spelled Fado, the fado.
Fado.
I think probably fado is the correct pronunciation. Fado. It's like ama. I go with Ama because our owner Rudy Shiner says AmaWaterways, so I go with that. But yes, again, entertainment is geared to local entertainment, but there's dancing each evening as well. Ship's musicians, so that's kind of nice. But again, the ship is smaller, right? And that's part of the allure of Portugal in this sort of smaller area is again the smaller ship that people really enjoy. The other thing I'll mention is the beginning and ending port, which you do have time to spend in the town of Porto. And you mentioned you're being a fan of port wine, but Porto itself, again, the beauty of Porto, if you go kind of take a look online or however you want to do it, but the setting of Porto, and this is where we begin and end our cruises, but Porto is absolutely amazing. So you get to spend time there as well. And so we don't want to sell the embark and disembark point of Porto.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that because Porto is it's absolutely gorgeous. I've been looking at the videos. We talked about the tile work and all of the buildings there that are just full of it. And when I was doing my research about it, they talked about how, there was a huge earthquake in Lisbon that, they had to rebuild everything, which is why they're so colorful, but it didn't affect Porto. So it still has that old historic charm that's a little different than Lisbon. It's kind of like new world versus old world.
True.
And just kind of how they've developed that city. Yeah.
So I want to definitely make mention of that. So yeah, just all the way around, including, as I said earlier, the visit to Spain, a little bonus going to Salamanca. And there you're going to get to go to another UNESCO World Heritage Area, which is this living museum in the House of Shells in Plaza Mayor, right? So again, wonderful highlights throughout the journey, no question about it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So are there any other like last minute facts about the Douro and AmaWaterways? I know we talked about, and I was going to mention this just for those that do like large cruise ships, river cruising is not going to have the same entertainment on board that you will see there. It's very much being in the destination and the items that are brought on, like when I did the Danube, you bring on like a classical music is the music that was related to the city that you're going to, and the same with Portugal, where we'll be focused on, different food from the region and wines, and then they'll have some traditional music, but it's not going to be you know, as it is the ship is not the reason you go on the trip. It's the destination that takes you on the trip.
Yes, because 100%. I mean, we don't really on the waterways sell the ship as the ultimate destination, which is a lot of what our brethren in the ocean sector with the ships that are essentially floating resorts, floating
Yeah.
cities, small cities that
The icon of the sea. I don't even know if I'd be able to explore it in 7 days. Like,
yeah, not enough time. Yeah, there's too much. So we're on the other end of the spectrum completely. But part of the reason, to your point, part of the reason we're seeing such exponential growth is that people are to some degree or another thinking, okay, we may have had that experience on the ocean, but we're now going to come and do something completely different and to be on a small, intimate ship. And I think that's the other thing too, is that in terms of again, getting to know the crew, getting to know your fellow guests, you're going to have a group going together. So everybody getting to know each other on a smaller, more intimate level, not getting lost in the crowd. You're really important to us as guests, right? You'll feel that on board. So I think again, overarching is that you're in a place that is already incredibly warm, welcoming, and inviting in the country of Portugal, right? So that would be my sort of parting thought or nugget, if you will, is just how fantastic Portugal is.
ah, well, thank you so much for coming on the call. It's amazing to hear, the experience of the AmaWaterways Douro trip. As I've said, I will be releasing all of the information in the middle of October about this trip, and we have a wait list going. I will say that the first 5 cabins that sign up are going to get a special discount. And so we are very excited about that. And I cannot wait to go on this trip. But thank you so much, Brian.
You're welcome. Thank you, Sydney, and thank you everybody for tuning in and enjoy Portugal because there's a lot to enjoy. All right. I really appreciate it.
Perfect.